the snake would present young Perkins with a kiss. The kiss of sleep. Eternal sleep. Never more to wake. Noticing that most, if not all, the lurking dead had followed in the direction of Kevin's flight, young Perkins could but wait the endless moments, whereupon finally, at last, the coiling death sought new ground in which to hunt. Slowly inching its way down young Perkins' body, down his torso, down until he reached his ankle, but not yet detaching itself. Its body was yet tethered to young Perkins' ankle. The tension was too much. Young Perkins found himself nauseous, lightheaded, fighting to keep conscious. He knew very well that his panting or swooning would absolutely be fatal. His bladder filled with fear, his heart empty of courage. Young Perkins relieved his bladder from its fear-built contents. A warm stream of steaming urine began moistening his overalls, traveling down the legs of his pants. The bitter urine coming in contact with the deadly viper gave it incentive to extricate itself from the young man's ankle. Thus, unencumbered, numb with fear and trembling, the badly shaken youth sought the only point of refuge, the stone where waters flow. The rending shrieks were now afar off, as Kevin's footsteps continued in the distance. He could tell by the rhythmic splashing the direction and speed in which Kevin fled while being hunted by the blind dead, the evil dead. Whether or not Kevin would be successful in evading the dead, young Perkins could not quite know. But for now, self-preservation being the first law of nature, his only thought, his only hope, his only chance of survival was the stone where waters flow. The legend had it that the stone was located in the middle of the swamp. Dead center, its heart, its very soul. It is said that if one could reach the stone, its flowing spring waters would act as a protective barrier, a moist shield, so to speak. It is said, if one would soak himself in the water, that individual would be protected from the blind wanderers. Unconcerned with his urine-soaked pants legs, young Perkins carefully, steadily made his way deeper into the heart of the haunted swamp, narrowly avoiding the strike of a water moccasin. Young Perkins traveled carefully, fearfully, proceeding, dreading the approach of the blind dead. Once taking a misstep, he sank down, nearly disappearing into the boggy mire, his life being spared by a nearby hanging vine. Still, he continued. After traveling a length of time, young Perkins suddenly noticed that the chilling shrieks and cries of anguish had begun to build. They were coming his way. Kevin was rapidly approaching. It was quite evident that Kevin was in full flight. All the while, the figures of the glowing dead desperately pursuing, the skeletal figure ominously illuminating the misty gloom, the fog growing even thicker, greatly hindering. The young man found his arms stretched forth like that of the blind dead. He was groping in the impenetrable thickness of the fog, making him almost blind. It was nearly impossible to discern distance. The young man was unable to see farther than perhaps 3 yards ahead. Still, Kevin's footsteps grew more distinct. From the sound, he was perhaps 20 yards and closing, the unearthly cries of the doomed echoing close behind. As the sound of Kevin's splashing came within hailing distance, young Perkins calls out, "Hey, Kevin, over here!" All to no avail. Kevin ran in blind fright. Young Perkins was forced to strike out in a course of interception. Running pell-mell, young Perkins sought to halt Kevin in his flight. Together, they would not only avoid the grip of the soulless dead, they would seek the safety of the stone and its waters. It was hard for young Perkins to reach his fleeing friend, for no sooner than the young man came within proximity, Kevin would suddenly serpentine and double back. This act caused some of the pursuants to wander off, which made it more dangerous. For now, the blind dead no longer traveled in a bunch. Every time Kevin doubled back, every time he cut left or right, more and more of the hunting specters would branch off in confusion, there to wander, their tormented cries, horrible, horrible to hear. Again and again, young Perkins' attempts to reach his companion were hindered, halted, derailed, all the while Kevin's breathless panting made manifest the fact that he was tiring, growing weaker. Again, young Perkins prayed, not for himself, but for the safety of his young companion. The heavens, being merciful, turned Kevin in his desperate bid for life. The sounds of Kevin's rapidly moving footsteps indicated that he was heading directly for young Perkins. In a moment, they would both make contact. But what of the evil dead? Would they overtake Kevin? Would they both be caught, dragged, screaming, down into the boiling pits? Would they be condemned to join the ranks of the wandering dead? Breathless panting, merged with the sound of mud-soaked feet, announced Kevin's arrival. Nerve-wracking screams were heard following close behind. Closer and closer, the footsteps approached. Louder and louder, the sound of splashing feet. Now, young Perkins thought to himself, now. As Kevin passed within grasp of young Perkins, he found it necessary to tackle his fleeing companion. A short tussle ensued until Kevin came to realize that the hands that gripped him were, in fact, mortal. There was no time to spare, for the blind dead made swiping motions with their hands coming nearer to grip them. The two quickly rose and continued their flight, anxiously searching the sanctuary of the stone. Man, I thought you was dead for show, voices Kevin through panting breaths. You think I didn't? Replies young Perkins with a half laugh. On and on the demonic dead continued stalking, their glowing necrotic hands swiping the air. I don't think I can make it. Kevin's gasping breath becomes more pronounced. Come on, man. Don't give up now. Young Perkins attempts to encourage his friend, who now shows definite signs of weakening. Young Perkins finds it necessary to grasp Kevin by the waist with one hand, while holding his arm over the shoulder with the other, half dragging him. Let me go. Save yourself. Kevin's breathless utterings causes young Perkins to increase his pace. Fool, I ain't letting you go, says young Perkins in between breaths. You the only friend I got. The weight of Kevin's rapidly tiring frame causes Perkins to grow weary, his heart growing weak, his legs buckle with every rapid step. He, too, wishes to unburden himself. Time seems to slow as young Perkins deliberates on whether or not to release Kevin, to leave his companion to his fate. I'm sorry. Young Perkins carefully expresses his sorrow. I'm sorry, Kevin. With those words, young Perkins releases his doomed companion.